Hurston Waldrep's arm went fast. Eli White made a bunch of left turns as the Atlanta Braves took down the Cincinnati Reds 4-2 to win the first ever Speedway Classic. Let's talk about it.
This is the Braves Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Atlanta Braves. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into the Braves Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your Atlanta sports teams each and every day. Special welcome to all of our friends over at Locked On MLB and Locked On Sports Today as we break down the Atlanta Braves 4-2 victory over the Cincinnati Reds in MLB Speedway Classic. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. That tanned and well-rested fella over there is Jake Mastriani, host of Locked On Braves, back from his vacation. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, because we've got a bunch of stuff coming this week all about your Atlanta Braves. But first, we're going to talk about this 4-2 victory by the Braves over the Cincinnati Reds in a Speedway Classic that took an extra, 14, 16 hours to actually get off the ground. But before we get to the whole game, just ignoring all of the logistical problems, all of the food issues and everything in there, Jake, just some of the visuals, this was a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's always cool to see a baseball field in a different type of venue like that, and being able to kind of create the largest crowd. I think it's over 91,000 is what they now officially announced for it. It's pretty cool. But yeah, outside of that, to your point, it sounds like it was mostly a debacle from a fan experience. Obviously, you can't really help the weather side of things, but didn't necessarily go as smooth and as clean as I'm sure Major League Baseball would have hoped.
Yeah, there was food issues, shuttles getting there, traffic, all that kind of stuff was a hassle. But on the field, once they actually got to play and it wasn't raining, the game went really well for the Atlanta Braves, barring one injury. Let's talk about some of the offensive stuff first, right? The bad news in this one, Austin Riley leaves the game. The good news, Eli White hits 2 homers. Let's do the compliment sandwich we've been doing recently. We'll start with the good stuff. Eli White playing in right field, batting 8th in this game, 2 for 4, 2 runs, 4 RBI. He was responsible for every single run the Braves scored today. And it just feels like with Ronald Acuna Jr. out for a little while, and given the issues you've had in the outfield in general this season, right? You've had Jurickson Profar get suspended and miss time. You've had Michael Harris significantly struggle. He's been better recently, but significantly struggle to the worst stats of his career. And Ronald Acuna Jr. missed time now twice. How big of a deal is it for the Braves to see if Eli White can legitimately step into if needed, step into an everyday playing time role going forward for next season?
I think it's huge because you look at Eli White, he's under control for 3 more seasons, but he is out of options. So in order for the Braves to keep him around, he pretty much has to stay on the roster. But a lot of credit to him too, because a guy that, like, maybe he was having a semi breakout earlier in the year when he was getting a lot of playing time, and then just the options weren't there to play him once Ronald came back, and he sat around for the while, a lot of time on the bench, but then to be inserted right back into the everyday lineup like this and to perform like he is, I think it's a huge credit to him, because I mean, he was playing pretty well before he started to lose his playing time with Ronald returning, and then was taken out of that role, like I said, and has come back in at least early on. I mean, it's a small sample size, but has been one of the Braves' best hitters in the few handful of games that he's played since being reinserted into the lineup. So I think that's a huge credit to him. And like you said, I think it'll be a big boost for the Braves going forward, having a guy like him that's, probably a 4th outfielder on a good team, but somebody that, as many injuries as the Braves have had in the outfield over the last several years, to have a guy like that you can plug in and feel comfortable with. I think it's pretty big for Eli White and his future with this team. Because like I said, he's under control for a while pretty cheaply, but doesn't have any options. So great to see that from Eli White, and to lead the Braves to a blowout win, Lindsay. It's the first time these teams have had a win of more than 1 run this year in the 6 games that they play. They all were decided by 1 run except for this one.
Yeah, it's they doubled that up. I think the crazier stat than that, this is the first time the Braves have won on a Sunday
Yeah.
since May. Although if I remember all of the weird rulebook stuff correctly, this game is technically Saturday's game because that's when the game started. Like the way it shows in the rulebook, I don't know if we can say the Braves officially won a game on Sunday simply because of all of that. But either way, just a great thing. And wrapping up the Eli White point real quick, he's made 5 starts now, I think, since Ronald went down. His last 7 games, he's batting .348. He's 8-23. And I think we all expect Marcell Ozuna to go to free agency after this season. The Braves are probably not going to bring him back. And so having somebody like Eli White that is a fantastic defender, that you can plug in every game for Jurickson Profar if you need to. He can pinch run. He can do all that kind of stuff. But also being able to rotate Ronald Acuna and Jurickson Profar into the designated hitter spot sometimes and let White play the field. You could play him twice a week, start him twice a week, and then use him the rest of the time as a defensive replacement. It's getting max usage out of that roster spot and out of a fourth outfielder, and just something the Braves haven't had the flexibility to do with a locked-in DH for the last couple seasons. I do hope that can maybe help with some of the health issues we've seen this year. Speaking of health issues, we see Austin Riley leave this game early. For those of you who didn't have it turned back on in time, Elly De La Cruz on second base when the game resumes. They obviously planned this. They immediately execute a double steal. They're on second and third. And then there's a hot shot hit to third. I think this ball probably gets through most of the time. So Elly De La Cruz is off the bag a little bit. And when Austin makes the kind of stabbing, sliding catch, Elly is trying to get into a rundown because he knows if he goes back to the bag, he's thrown out. And Austin doesn't throw home. He just keeps chasing him and outruns him to the bag, makes the diving tag. But obviously, when he hit the ground, he came in, he just hit a little too hard. Braves lift him with what they called lower abdominal soreness. He's probably, I'm assuming, he might go on the injured list. We don't officially know as of now. We'll definitely be watching that. And if it has to happen, I do think the fact it's a lost season means they may be a little more cautious on this, but it also gives Atlanta a chance to keep evaluating what they have in Nacho Alvarez. We saw his defense look really good at third. He's been playing some second in Gwinnett recently, which could be a sign of the future. But the bat still hasn't shown up in the majors. Obviously, it doesn't matter wins and losses the rest of the year, but if Atlanta gets Nacho Alvarez up, what are you looking to see besides just basic production from Nacho in the majors?
I mean, I really think it is his bat. I mean, he's proven all I think he can at the minor league level with his bat and the consistency he has there. Obviously, we've all kind of been waiting on the power, especially if he was going to fill out as a third baseman. I was really, really impressed with his defense at third base his last time up. I mean, that was just tremendous, the level of play that he had over there. And if that's there, whether it's at third or second, or even if they have to play him at short some in the future, I think I have much fewer concerns about that. And defense was probably the biggest concern that I had about Nacho when he was at shortstop. But that was, I mean, it was really impressive. So the carrying card for him, or the calling card for him, has been the bat, though. And that's really yet to be what we've seen at the big league level. So just seeing him continue to mature, and it's not an easy transition to hit at the big league level. I get that, but I think it does get to, and he's 22 as well. He's still really young, but it does kind of get to that point at some place, is he just a 4A hitter, or can he make that transition to the big league level? And it's still, like I said, he's still very young, still a very small sample size. But if this gives you another opportunity to get, another 30, 40, 50 at bats to see what he can do, I think that could go a long way in determining the future of Nacho. If he has a spot on this team, like you said, they've been playing him at second base, perhaps for what could be in the future, if the bat comes along, that maybe he could be your second baseman of the future once they eventually move on from Ozzy, whether this offseason or in the off seasons to come. I mean, look, it is a lost season, like you said, and I think because of that, they probably will be a little bit more cautious with Austin Riley and just throw him on the IL, even if they think it's only going to be a couple of days. Why not? Don't push it. But it's also a chance for us to see another young player the rest of the way, which I think is what a lot of the rest of the season should be about, like the pitcher we're going to talk about here pretty soon.
Golly, the segue was right there. You nailed it. Well, let's get into Hurston Waldrep. He looked fantastic today. StatCast is a little confused by what he did, but just really impressive. We'll talk about that next, right here on the Braves Postcast. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. Because you're already following the action, why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. Whether you're placing a same-game parlay or just watching a bet ride in the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. They had the Braves favored to win the Speedway Classic. I guarantee you they did not have Eli White favored to hit 2 home runs. So if you felt like it could happen, this was your chance to cash in on that feeling. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, real quick before we get into Hurston Waldrep, we do have an update on Austin Riley. Manager Brian Sidker says that they are going to, quote, further evaluate him over the next couple of days before they decide whether or not he's going to go back on the injured list. That's from Mark Bowman of MLB.com. Okay, so Hurston Waldrep gets in a car at 5 o'clock this morning and gets driven 260-something miles up to Bristol from Gwinnett to make the start. Comes into the game with runners on first and second, and all he does is go 5 2/3 innings, 3 hits, 1 total run, 2 walks to 4 strikeouts. I was really impressed. The thing we've always talked about with Hurston Waldrep is he couldn't consistently land the fastball in the zone enough where the splitter would work off of it, where the slider would work off of it. He did some different things today, but he established the strike zone, got the whiffs off of that. And as the chat keeps pointing out, Hurston Waldrep just cooked today. How big is this for a Braves team that has lost AJ Smith-Shawver as an option next year, we think has lost Grant Holmes as an option next year, and has seen injuries take down every single starter from the opening day rotation?
It's huge. I mean, it's huge for the confidence of Hurston Waldrep. Obviously, we've seen him up before, and it hasn't gone all that well.
True.
But this is a new version of Hurston Waldrep. If you haven't seen him pitch in a while, and to be honest, I haven't completely locked in him on a Gwinnett too much, but it's no longer splitter heavy. It's not throwing a ton of splitters. There are some mechanical adjustments you're seeing, at least if we can trust what Baseball Savant has right now, because one of his pitches he has a known, which we think is the slider, but it says he only threw the splitter 13 times. And that was his pitch coming out of college, and why many of us, myself included, were so excited to take him, because it's a devastating pitch. It is a big swing and miss pitch. And even throwing it 13 times, he got 5 whiffs on it on 7 swings. And dialing it back hasn't taken away how good that pitch is. It's still a really good pitch. But to your point a minute ago, it's not that good of a pitch if you can't set it up with other things, if you can't command the fastball in the zone. And the mechanical adjustments that he's made, it seems to have allowed him to have better command and have better control over his pitches, to be able to throw that fastball in the zone a little bit more. Velocity is not quite where it was coming out of college consistently, where you were seeing him regularly up to 97. It's still there. He can get up to that, and he got up to that a little bit in this game. Got some 96 in there, but it's not a dominant version of Hurston Waldrep like I thought we would see coming out of college. But the mechanical adjustments have helped him be a better pitcher and get better results, and that's what you ultimately want. I mean, this is the pitcher that we've seen. Like, you can go back to my episodes when I do a weekly minor league episode on Locked On Braves, and in the month of April, I was like, they got to turn this guy into a reliever. They got to turn this guy into a reliever. He is struggling. I mean, it was awful, but he makes these adjustments. And pretty much since April, you've been seeing really good results from Hurston Waldrep. Not necessarily a ton of strikeouts. He'll get them every now and then, and still has some swing and miss with that slider and that splitter, but he's just able to throw more strikes now, and it's making that splitter, when he throws it, that much more devastating. But obviously that slider, with the pitch that he can lead with now, that slider fastball combination has what's really helped him, along with those mechanical adjustments, helped him just be a better pitcher and have better results. And at least in one start, it seems to have been able to translate at the big league level.
Yeah, I wrote something very similar over at BravesToday.com. I want to say maybe a week before they did the mechanical adjustments for him, about this is probably it for him as a starter. I do think that maybe the ceiling's a little bit lower now. He's probably, instead of being like a number 2, he's probably a number 3 or so. But I do want to kind of it's really interesting to me that you look at the MVPs of this game, and I think we saw this tweet actually come out from Dave Lizotte, the voice of the Gwinnett Stripers. The MVPs of this game were all 2024 Gwinnett Stripers. Luke Williams makes a fantastic diving play in the 8th, and credit to Ozzie for the pick at second base too. Hurston Waldrep obviously looking fantastic. Eli White doing a lot of stuff. Drake Baldwin doing a lot of stuff. Just it's one of those games. We've complained a lot on this postcast about the top of the order sometimes not being able to carry their weight offensively. And Olsen goes 0 for 4. Obviously, Riley leaves the game. Sean Murphy goes 0 for 4, by the way. But you get 2 hits from Drake Baldwin, 2 from Michael Harris. Ozzie has a hit. Eli White has 2. Nick Allen gets a hit in this game. And because of that, Atlanta takes home probably the only trophy they're going to get this year, the Speedway Classic trophy. But I hope Eli White gets to keep that in his house. He gets to have that versus it sitting in Atlanta's trophy case. Real quick, the rotation for this upcoming series, they've officially kind of adjusted this now. Quinn Priester versus Eric Fetty on Monday. Spencer Strider, who was supposed to start on Saturday, and they scratched him because of the rain delay. He starts on Tuesday versus Freddie Peralta. And Joey Wentz versus Jose Quintana in the finale on Wednesday. It just kind of feels like they're just treating Strider's warm-up on Saturday as a bullpen. Is this something they should have skipped him completely, or are we okay with pushing him back like that, meaning you can then use Hurston Waldrep for the doubleheader on Sunday?
Yeah, because you do have the doubleheader, so you're going to have to get somebody else in there anyway. So I think it kind of makes sense. It's enough days in between, I think, to give him some rest. You also, and Strider, somebody, as we know, he's going to be honest. If he doesn't feel good about it, if his body doesn't feel good about it, he's going to let you know. Yeah. But I think it's okay giving him a couple extra days of rest. I mean, he was hot, but it's not like he had to throw with any type of effort or anything on Saturday. It's not like he started the game like Chase Burns and then had to pull him out. So I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Final question here. How fair is it that when the Braves and the Reds petitioned Rob Manfred to allow it's not the extra player to not be a position player as was originally required, but where it could be a pitcher? And so Hurston Waldrep had to get driven the 260 miles or so to Bristol, but the commissioner's private plane flew to Cincinnati to get their pitcher. It's like 300 miles. Should Atlanta have filed a protest that this game was played slanted against them because not only did they have to have runs scored on them in the rain, but then also they didn't get the benefit of the commissioner's private plane? Is this just bias against the Braves by MLB?
Yeah, if you haven't learned by now, MLB doesn't necessarily like the Braves. Rob Manfred hates the Braves, as everybody knows. So you're not going to get any special treatment there, but it just makes it all that more special to get the win and Hurston Waldrep to pitch outstanding.
I really wish Rob Manfred had to be the one to give Eli White that trophy. That would have been fantastic. I guess it's because the Reds had home field advantage. That's why they got the private plane. Again, Braves take down the Cincinnati Reds 4-2 to officially win the series. This is the first series win for the Braves in a minute. They are back in action tomorrow against the Milwaukee Brewers at home. We will be back with postcasts all week. There are 8 games in the next 7 days. We will be here for every single one of them. Make sure you're subscribed to both Locked On Sports Atlanta and Locked On Braves, wherever you get your podcasts. Jake has a ton of content coming, whether it's a Miners Monday update, a lot of different stuff this week about what Atlanta needs to do down the stretch to make sure that they can get Drake Baldwin the Rookie of the Year and everything else. Also, if you do me a favor, if you're listening on audio, leave a 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music. And I'm going to be covering some of those same things over on the Braves Today newsletter at bravestoday.com. For Jake Mastriani, I'm Lindsay Crosby. This has been the Braves Postcast.